The desert was vast and silent, a sea of golden sand stretching as far as the eye could see. The sun burned brightly overhead, making the horizon shimmer. In the middle of this emptiness, a small town stood quietly, its mud brick houses warm with the sun's glow. The town was old, with narrow streets and ancient walls that told stories of the past. Unearthed, a young archaeologist, stepped off the small dusty bus that had brought him here. His heart beat fast with excitement. He had traveled many miles to reach this place because of whispers about ancient tombs buried beneath the dunes. Unearthed carried a small leather bag with his tools and notebooks. He looked around at the town. There were children playing near a well, women carrying water jars, and men sitting in the shade, talking quietly. Everyone seemed busy with their own lives. Yet, Unearthed could feel the weight of history in the air. He took a deep breath, feeling both nervous and excited. This was the kind of place where history slept beneath the sand, waiting for someone brave enough to wake it. His guide, a man named Hadi, met him at the edge of the town. Hadi was tall and thin, with suntanned skin and eyes that seemed to hold stories of their own. Unearthed, Hadi said, this desert is not kind to strangers. You want to find the tombs, but many who tried before you did not return with good news. Unearthed smiled politely. I'm careful, Hadi. I have studied many ruins and tombs. I want to learn, not destroy. Hadi shook his head slowly. Curiosity is powerful, but the dunes do not forgive easily. The tombs you seek are old. They belong to a time no one remembers well. They are not just stones and gold. They are alive in ways we cannot explain. Unearthed felt a shiver run down his spine. The words sounded like a warning, but he could not let fear stop him. He had dreamed of this moment for years. Show me the way, he said. Hadi led Unearthed through the town and into the desert. The wind blew softly, carrying grains of sand that stung their faces. They walked for hours, the sun climbing higher and higher. Finally, they reached a place where the dunes rose like small hills, smooth and golden. Hadi stopped. This is where it begins, he said, pointing to a small ridge of sand. The locals avoid it. Strange things happen here. Unearthed knelt and brushed the sand with his hands. He felt something hard beneath the surface. Carefully, he dug a little more, revealing the edge of a carved stone. His heart jumped. This is it, he whispered. The stone was old, its surface covered with strange symbols and patterns. Some looked like animals, others like people, and some were shapes he could not recognize. The carvings were beautiful and mysterious, a message from a long-forgotten civilization. Lila, his assistant, joined him. She was strong and clever, always thinking ahead. Be careful, she said. We do not know what is inside. It could be dangerous. I know, Unearthed said. But we must see. This is history waiting for us. They cleared more sand, revealing a small entrance. It was just big enough for them to crawl through. The air from inside was cool, different from the hot desert outside. It smelled of dust and something older, something that had been locked away for centuries. Unearthed held his lantern high, and the light fell on the stone walls of the entrance. There were more carvings here, more symbols, and images of people carrying objects and performing rituals. As they entered, the temperature dropped slightly. The walls seemed to close around them, not with stones, but with the weight of time. The air was heavy, and every sound they made echoed softly. Unearthed and Lila moved slowly, careful not to touch anything. They found small niches in the walls, holding broken pottery and coins. Some coins were shiny and new in appearance, but the designs were ancient. This is incredible, Unearthed whispered. No one has been here for hundreds, maybe thousands of years. Lila nodded, but her eyes were wide with caution. It feels wrong, she said. I do not like it here. Something is watching. Unearthed laughed softly, trying to hide his own fear. It is just the wind in our imagination. The tombs are empty, and nothing lives here except the past. But even as he said this, a small echo came from deep within the entrance. It sounded like a whisper. A soft voice carried through the stone halls. Unearthed paused, listening carefully. The sound stopped as quickly as it came. He shook his head. Yes, he said quietly. It is just the wind. They explored a small chamber, the walls decorated with paintings. The colors were faded but still visible. Scenes of daily life, celebrations, and rituals covered the stone. Arif carefully sketched some of the images in his notebook. Lila took notes on the symbols and markings. They worked in silence, both feeling the weight of history pressing round. As the sun began to set outside, the tomb seemed to change. Shadows grew longer, and the air felt colder. Arif noticed marks on the walls that he had not seen before. Figures of warriors and guards appeared in the carvings, and some looked as if they were moving in the flickering light of the lantern. Lila shivered. "Maybe we should leave for now," she said softly. "The sun is setting, and we can come back tomorrow." "This place is too strange at night." Reef looked at her, then back at the walls. He wanted to stay, to explore more, but he knew she was right. They carefully made their way out of the tomb, brushing sand back over the entrance to keep it safe. The desert wind had changed, stronger now, blowing sand across the dunes. They walked back to the town, quiet and thoughtful. That night, Reef could not sleep. He lay on a thin mattress in a small guest house, thinking about what they had found. The carvings, the coins, the whispered sounds, all of it made his mind race. He knew this was only the beginning. There was more to uncover, more secrets buried beneath the sand, waiting for someone brave enough to find them outside. The wind carried the sound of shifting dunes. Somewhere beneath the golden hills, the tombs waited, silent and patient, and for the first time, Reef wondered if some things were meant to stay hidden. The next morning, the desert sun rose slowly over the golden dunes, casting long shadows across the sand. Reef and Lila woke early, their minds still full of images from the tomb. Breakfast was simple: bread, dates, and tea in the small guest house. Neither spoke much. Both knew that the day ahead would be different. Hadi met them outside, his face serious. "The desert is calm now," he said, "but you must be careful. Some doors, once open, should never be touched." Reef nodded. "We will be careful. Today, we explore more of the tomb. We must understand what lies beneath the dunes." The walk to the excavation site was quiet. The desert was alive with small sounds, the wind moving the sand, the cry of a distant bird, and the soft footsteps of the travelers. When they arrived, the tomb's entrance looked smaller under the bright sunlight. The carvings glowed in the morning light, and the shadows revealed new patterns. Reef felt a thrill. This was what he had waited for his whole life. They entered the tomb carefully, lanterns in hand. The air was cooler than the desert, and dust rose as they moved through the narrow passage. Each step seemed to echo through the ancient stones, carrying the weight of centuries. The walls were lined with niches, some holding pottery, others empty. Reef took notes and sketches, his eyes wide with wonder. "Look at this," Lila whispered, pointing to a small carving in the wall. It showed a person holding a strange object. Surrounded by light, it looks like a map or a guide. Maybe it leads to another chamber. Reef studied it closely. "You may be right. The symbols seem to form a pattern. Perhaps we are not at the main chamber yet." As they followed the symbols, the passage widened into a larger room. The walls were covered in gold leaf and painted images. Scenes of ceremonies and gatherings filled the space. Figures wore robes and carried objects that seemed important. Some carried offerings. Others held tools or instruments. The paintings told a story, though its meaning was not clear. In the center of the chamber was a stone pedestal. On it rested a golden idol, small but finely crafted. It depicted a figure with its hands raised, surrounded by symbols that matched the ones on the walls. Reef approached it slowly, his heart pounding. He could feel the power of the place, as if the idol itself had watched him from beneath the sand for centuries. "Be careful," Lila said. "We should not touch it yet." The inscriptions warned of danger for those who disturbed the tomb. Reef nodded, trying to calm his excitement. He examined the pedestal and the idol, making careful notes in his notebook. He studied the surrounding walls and discovered more niches, each containing small objects, coins, beads, and tiny statues. Some were broken, but others were intact. Each seemed to tell a story, though the meaning was hidden by time. As they worked, a strange sound echoed through the chamber. It was soft, like whispers carried by the wind. Lila froze. "Did you hear that?" she asked, her voice trembling. "Yes," Reef said quietly. "It must be the wind moving through the tunnels. Nothing else is here." But neither of them could ignore the feeling that someone or something was watching. Shadows seemed to move at the edge of the lantern light. The carvings on the walls appeared almost alive, the figures shifting slightly when they were not looking directly. Arif turned to a passage that seemed to lead deeper into the tomb. "We should see where this goes. There may be more chambers." Lila hesitated. "I'm not sure. The tomb already feels alive. It is as if it does not want to be disturbed." Reef smiled softly, though he too felt the chill in the air. "We will be careful. We only want to learn." They moved forward, the passage twisting and turning. After several minutes, it opened into a hidden chamber. This room was larger than the previous ones, with walls covered in intricate carvings. The images showed battles, ceremonies, and people carrying strange objects. The colors were brighter here, as if preserved by some secret of the tomb. In the center of the room was a large stone sarcophagus. Its lid was carved with symbols that matched the ones outside. Reef and Lila approached slowly, careful not to touch it. The carvings depicted a story of a ruler, a person who had wanted to be remembered forever. Around the ruler were images of guardians, standing watch over treasures and secrets. "This must be the main chamber," Reef whispered. "The ruler of this tomb is here." Lila nodded, though her eyes were wide with fear. "It feels heavy, as if the air itself is warning us to leave." Reef examined the sarcophagus carefully. He noticed small cracks along the lid, showing glimpses of gold inside. "The craftsmanship is incredible," he said. "The people who built this tomb had great skill." Suddenly, the air shifted. A small dust cloud rose from the floor, and the lantern flickered. Lila gasped. "Something is moving," she whispered. Reef held his lantern steady. "It is only the wind," he said, though his voice lacked certainty. The tomb felt alive, as if it were breathing. The shadows danced along the walls, creating shapes that were not there a moment before. They decided to stay only long enough to record their findings. Reef sketched the sarcophagus, the carvings, and the objects in the room. Lila wrote notes about the symbols and the figures together. They tried to capture the knowledge without disturbing anything. As they prepared to leave, Reef glanced back at the sarcophagus. For a moment, he thought he saw the eyes of the carved figure move. He shook his head. "It is just my imagination," he said softly. But Lila was not convinced. "We must be careful," she said. "This tomb is older than anything we have studied. It has power, and it protects itself." They left the chamber slowly, moving back through the twisting passages. The tomb seemed quieter now, but the feeling of being watched did not disappear. Outside, the sun was lower in the sky, casting long shadows across the dunes. The desert wind had returned, carrying the sound of shifting sand. Hadi waited for them near the entrance. "Did you see anything unusual?" he asked. Studying their faces, Reef shook his head. "Nothing we cannot explain. But the tomb is impressive. There is more to discover, I am sure." Hadi nodded, though his eyes were wary. "Be careful. The desert keeps its secrets. Some things, once disturbed, cannot be controlled." As night fell, Reef and Lila returned to the guest house. The stars shone brightly over the desert, endless and silent. Yet the tomb beneath the dunes seemed closer than ever, a hidden world full of history, mystery, and warnings. Neither of them slept easily that night, their minds filled with visions of gold, carvings, and shadows. They knew this was only the beginning. The tomb had opened its doors to them, and the secrets it held were waiting to be uncovered. The desert morning arrived hot and bright. Reef and Lila had barely slept. Their dreams were filled with strange visions of shadows moving inside the tomb, whispers that seemed to call their names, and glowing figures in golden robes. Lila sipped her tea slowly, her hands trembling slightly. "I do not like this," she said. "Something is wrong with the tomb. It is not just history. It is alive." Reef looked at her carefully. He understood her fear. though his curiosity burned brighter than ever. "We have come too far to turn back now," he said. "We must understand what is here. If there is danger, we must face it with knowledge, not fear." Heidi joined them at breakfast, carrying a small bundle of scrolls and papers. "These were left by travelers who came before you," he said quietly. "Few returned, and even fewer wrote what they found. Study them carefully. They tell of the tomb's power." Arif unrolled the scrolls. The writings were old and fragile, some written in symbols that resembled those on the tomb walls. As he read aloud, he realized the scrolls described the history of a great civilization that had once ruled the desert. They were skilled builders, artists, and priests. They believed in immortality and built the tombs to preserve their rulers forever. Lila leaned over the scrolls. Her eyes widened. "Listen to this," she said. "Those who disturb the resting place of the immortals shall awaken the guardians. Misfortune shall follow the greedy. The tomb watches, and it remembers." Reef frowned, a warning. He said softly, "But it is only words. It cannot harm us if we are careful." Lila shook her head. "It may not be the words. It may be the power behind them. The tomb is older than any living memory. It may have ways to protect itself." After a short rest, they returned to the tomb. The entrance seemed smaller than before under the harsh sunlight. As they entered, the air grew cooler, almost chilling, as if the stones themselves exhaled. The carved walls seemed darker, the shadows deeper. Reef and Lila moved carefully, their lanterns lighting the familiar passages. When they reached the chamber with the golden idol, Reef noticed a strange change. Small cracks had appeared in the walls, and some of the dust on the floor was disturbed as if something had moved. He knelt and examined the cracks, realizing they formed patterns similar to the ones on the scrolls. "This is not ordinary damage," he whispered. "Something is changing." Lila's hand rested on his shoulder. "I told you, the tomb remembers." They continued deeper into the tomb, following the symbols that led to the hidden chamber they had discovered before. As they approached, the air seemed heavier. The shadows on the walls flickered strangely. The golden sarcophagus glimmered in the lantern light, and Reef noticed that the carvings of the guardians looked sharper, almost real. Suddenly, a sound echoed through the chamber, a soft, low hum that vibrated through the floor. Lila froze. "What is that?" she asked. "I do not know," Reef replied. "It is coming from the sarcophagus." They approached carefully. The golden lid was slightly raised, though they had left it closed. Arif's hand hovered above it, hesitant. "We must be careful," he said. "This could be part of the tomb's warning. Touching it may awaken something." As he spoke, the hum grew louder, turning into a low, chanting sound. The shadows on the walls moved in strange patterns, forming shapes that seemed to follow their movements. Lila stepped back. "We should leave," she whispered urgently. Arif shook his head, though his heart raced. "We cannot leave without understanding. The scrolls warn us, yes, but knowledge is our protection." They observed the sarcophagus, noting every detail. The carvings of the ruler and the guardians seemed alive now, as if the figures had noticed their presence. The golden idol on the pedestal in the center of the room began to glow faintly. Arif's lantern reflected off it, casting dancing lights across the chamber. Lila's voice trembled. "Arif, the scroll said misfortune follows the greedy, even. Looking for treasure could be dangerous." Reef nodded. "We are not here for gold. We are here to learn. That must be our focus." Just then, a small stone fell from the ceiling near their feet. It was not heavy, but the sound echoed through the chamber like a warning drum. The hum and chanting grew louder. Reef realized the tomb itself was responding to their presence. The carvings on the walls seemed to shift, telling a story of punishment for those who took what did not belong to them. They moved back toward the entrance slowly. The air felt thicker with every step, and the shadows seemed to follow them. When they reached the outer chamber, the hum stopped. The tomb was silent again, but the feeling of being watched remained. Outside, the desert was calm. The wind whispered over the dunes, and the sun continued its climb in the sky. Reef and Lila sat on the sand, catching their breath. "It is real," Lila said. "The tomb, it has power. We cannot ignore that." Reef nodded slowly. Yes, it is more than we imagine. But we must continue. We must understand its history, its secrets. Fear cannot stop knowledge. Hadi approached, noticing their tense expressions. You have felt it, he said quietly. The tomb does not like to be disturbed. Those who came before you failed because they did not respect it. You must respect it if you wish to survive. Reef looked at the scrolls again. The story of the civilization was clear. They had built great tombs, hoping to preserve rulers forever, but their greed had brought ruin. Those who tried to steal or disturb the tomb were punished mysteriously, often disappearing without a trace. Arif realized that the warnings were not just superstition. They were lessons carved in stone, tested by time. At night, Arif and Lila returned to the guest house in silence. The stars shone brightly, but neither felt comforted. Their dreams were troubled by visions of glowing eyes in the tomb, whispers carried by the wind, and shadows moving in impossible ways. Both understood now that the tomb was not just a resting place, it was a guardian, alive in ways they could barely understand. Reef lay awake, thinking. He realized that knowledge and respect must go together. Curiosity alone could be dangerous. The tomb had revealed a small part of its power, and he could only imagine what might happen if they pushed too far. Lila, on the other hand, thought of the scroll's warning constantly. She felt the tomb's eyes upon them, even from afar. She knew that greed, even for knowledge, could be punished if they did not move carefully. The desert outside was quiet, but the tomb beneath the dunes waited patiently, holding its secrets, and testing those who dared enter. By morning, both were resolved. They would continue their study, but with caution. They would respect the tomb and its history, documenting what they could without taking what was not theirs. The tomb's curse, whether real or symbolic, had made its presence known. Reef and Lila understood that this journey was not just about discovery. It was about wisdom, humility, and the balance between curiosity and caution. The desert dawn was pale and quiet. Reef and Lila left the guest house early, their minds heavy with thoughts of the tomb. The previous day's experiences had left them both cautious. They carried only the essentials: notebooks, brushes, and lanterns. Hadi accompanied them, his face serious, as if the desert itself had spoken to him and warned of danger. As they approached the tomb, the wind was soft, moving the sand in gentle waves. The entrance seemed unchanged, but an uneasy feeling hung in the air. Reef noticed that the shadows of the dunes looked darker, sharper, almost as if they were stretching toward him. Lila shivered. It feels different today, she said quietly. Reef nodded. We must stay focused. Let's record what we can, then leave before the sun gets too high. They entered the tomb carefully. The air inside was cooler, but heavier than before, as if the chamber itself remembered their presence. Dust rose in tiny clouds as they walked. Reef and Lila moved slowly, their lanterns illuminating carvings they had not seen before. The walls were filled with figures carrying objects, some with offerings, some with tools. Every figure seemed alive, frozen in motion yet watching them. Lila stopped at a section of the wall. Look at this, she whispered. The carvings showed people walking through the desert, guided by lights from above. The symbols matched some in the scrolls, suggesting a path through the tomb that was meant to be followed carefully. Reef studied the images. This may be a guide, he said. It shows how the tomb was built, or perhaps how to move safely through it. They continued deeper, reaching the chamber with the golden sarcophagus. The glow of the idol in the center seemed brighter today. As they examined the carvings, Reef noticed subtle changes. Shadows in the corners of the room moved slightly, though there was no wind or movement. The sarcophagus seemed to shimmer in the lantern light. Do you see that? Lila asked, her voice low. The shadows, they are not just shadows. They are moving on their own. Reef leaned closer, his curiosity stronger than his fear. It is as if the tomb is alive. We must be careful, but we cannot ignore this. It is part of the history we are studying. As they documented the carvings, a sound echoed through the chamber. It was soft at first, like footsteps on sand, then louder. Moving around the room, Lila froze. Someone is here, she whispered. I can feel it. Reef shook his head. There is no one, only the tomb and the wind. But the footsteps continued, echoing as if following them. Shadows on the walls lengthened, twisting into shapes that looked like figures walking silently. Lila's hand trembled as she held her lantern. "The tomb is warning us," she said. "It does not want visitors." They moved toward the hidden chamber again, the one deeper inside the tomb. The path seemed longer than before, the walls tighter, and the shadows darker. Every step made the floor creak softly, sending echoes through the stone corridors. When they reached the chamber, they found new carvings they had not seen. Figures of guards holding weapons appeared, standing as if ready to protect something. "This is more than a tomb," Reef whispered. "It is a fortress, a place built to protect secrets and treasures." Lila looked around nervously, "And it is protecting them still. Something watches us. I can feel it." Reef nodded. "Then we must respect it. We are here to learn, not to take. That is our protection." As they studied the chamber, the shadows shifted again. The figures on the walls seemed to move slightly. Toward them, the lanterns flickered, and the air grew colder. Dust rose from the floor in small clouds, swirling as if caught in invisible hands. The golden idol in the center glowed faintly, casting light across the carvings of guards. Suddenly, a section of the wall slid slightly, revealing a narrow passage they had not seen before. Reef approached it, heart racing. "This could lead to another chamber," he said softly. Lila hesitated. "I am not sure. The tomb has shown us warnings already. Perhaps this passage is a trap." Reef considered her words. He knew the tomb was dangerous, but his curiosity would not allow him to turn back. "We will move carefully," he said. "We only observe. We do not touch." They entered the passage slowly. The air was colder, and the walls were carved with intricate patterns. Some of the carvings showed scenes of people being punished for taking treasures, while others showed offerings being left carefully. The message was clear: respect the tomb, or face consequences. The passage ended in a small chamber, almost entirely empty except for a stone pedestal. On it rested a small, sealed container. Reef approached it, noting its careful placement. He examined the carvings around it, which depicted a ruler receiving gifts from people who had come respectfully. "This is a message," he said. "Those who come with respect are honored. Those who come with greed are punished." Lila nodded. "Then we must respect it. We cannot disturb it, not even a little." As they prepared to leave, the shadows in the passage seemed to stretch, moving alongside them as if guiding them out. The air grew warmer, the chill fading as they retraced their steps. Outside, the sun was high, casting sharp light on the dunes. The desert was quiet, but the feeling of being watched remained. Hadi met them at the entrance. "Did you see anything unusual?" he asked. Reef nodded slowly. "Yes. The tomb is alive in ways we cannot fully understand. It has power, and it tests those who enter." Hadi's eyes darkened. "Then you understand. The tomb protects itself. Those who do not respect it face danger." Reef and Lila returned to the guest house, both silent. That night, the desert wind whispered over the dunes, carrying the sound of shifting sand. Both knew the tomb's warnings were real. They had seen the shadows, felt the presence, and understood the message. Some things beneath the dunes were not meant to be disturbed. Yet they had only begun to uncover the story. As they lay in their beds, the stars bright above, both realized the desert held secrets that were patient and powerful. The tomb was more than a resting place for the dead. It was alive, guarding its history and treasures, waiting for those who could respect it, and punishing those who could not. The shadows in the sand had spoken. Reef and Lila understood that their journey was far from over, and that the tomb's guardians would watch their every move. They would need courage, wisdom, and caution if they hoped to uncover the rest of the secrets buried beneath the golden dunes. The desert sun was rising again, casting golden light over the dunes. Reef and Lila set out for the tomb, their footsteps leaving soft imprints in the sand. Hadi walked silently beside them, his eyes scanning the horizon. The desert seemed calm, but both Reef and Lila felt a tension in the air, as if the land itself was holding its breath. As they approached the tomb, they noticed something unusual. Small footprints appeared in the sand, leading toward the entrance. They were not human. Footprints, but narrow and light, almost like the marks of animals, though nothing could be seen. Lila frowned. "We are not alone," she whispered. Reef studied the tracks carefully. "They do not look dangerous, but they are unusual. Someone or something has been here recently." Heidi nodded gravely. "The tomb watches. The footprints could be a warning. It is wise to proceed with caution." They entered the tomb. The air was cooler than the desert, and the walls seemed darker than before. Dust rose in tiny clouds as they moved, and the lantern light flickered strangely. Every step echoed through the corridors, as if the stones themselves were listening. In the chamber with the golden sarcophagus, they noticed more changes. The carvings of the guardians appeared sharper and more detailed than before. The shadows moved subtly, twisting as if alive. Lila stepped back. "It feels like someone is here with us," she said quietly. Reef nodded. "The tomb is responding. We must respect it, observe, record, but do not touch anything." As they continued deeper into the tomb, they discovered a small chamber they had not seen before. The entrance was almost hidden behind a stone wall, but faint carvings above it suggested it was important. Reef carefully removed some sand from the entrance, revealing the chamber inside. The room was empty except for a single statue at its center. It was large and imposing, carved from black stone. Its eyes seemed to shine in the lantern light, and its posture suggested that it was guarding something. Reef felt a chill as he stepped closer. "This must be the guardian," he whispered. Lila's voice trembled. "I can feel its presence. It is watching us." Reef studied the statue. Its details were precise. The carved hands held symbols of power, and its face was stern, serious. The figure seemed almost alive, as if it could move at any moment. Round the statue, the walls were covered with carvings of people offering gifts, bowing, and showing respect. Others were shown punished, trapped under the shadows of the guardian. "This tomb is not only a resting place," Reef said softly. "It is protected by this guardian. It tests those who enter. Only those who respect it are allowed to leave unharmed." Lila nodded. "Then we must continue with care. We cannot let fear control us. But we must obey the tomb's rules." As they documented the chamber, a faint sound echoed through the room. It was soft at first, like breathing, then louder, like footsteps moving around the walls. The shadows twisted, forming shapes that resembled the guardian's movements. Lila held her lantern tightly. "It is alive," she whispered. Reef shook his head slightly. "Not alive as we are. It is the tomb's power, a protection. We must respect it, and it will not harm us." Suddenly, a small stone rolled across the floor, stopping near the base of the statue. The shadows shifted violently, and the air grew colder. Lila gasped. "It is warning us," she said. Reef nodded. "Yes, we are in its presence. We must show respect and leave soon." They carefully recorded the carvings and sketches of the statue, noting every detail. Reef felt a strange connection to the tomb, as if it were testing his intentions. The golden idol in the other chamber seemed to glow faintly, and the shadows of the guardian stretched toward it as they prepared to leave. The sounds of footsteps returned, echoing softly around them. The shadows moved closer, following their lanterns. Lila whispered, "We must go. The guardian watches, and it does not like hesitation." Reef nodded. "We will leave carefully, without taking anything." They moved back through the passage, the air growing warmer as they approached the outer chamber. The shadows receded slightly, and the low hum of the tomb faded. Outside, the desert sun was high, casting harsh light on the dunes. The footprints they had seen in the morning were gone, erased by the wind. Heidi met them at the entrance. "Did you feel it?" he asked. "The guardian is alive, even if it is stone. It has watched many who entered this tomb. Few leave without learning respect." Reef nodded. "We felt its presence. It is powerful, but we understand now. Knowledge and respect must go together. Curiosity alone is not enough." Lila shivered but smiled faintly. "I think we have learned an important lesson. The tomb protects its history, and it will test anyone who does not honor it." As they returned to the guest house, the desert wind carried faint whispers. The dunes seemed quiet, but the feeling of being watched remained. The tomb was patient, waiting for the right person to uncover its secrets. Those who approached it with greed or disrespect were punished, but those who approached with care and understanding could learn its hidden stories. That night, Arif and Lila could not sleep. Their dreams were filled with visions of the guardian statue, shadows moving through the tomb, and whispers calling their names. Both understood that the tomb's power was real, and that their journey would require courage, wisdom, and respect. The desert outside was silent, the stars bright above. The tomb beneath the dunes waited, patient and powerful, holding secrets from a civilization long forgotten. Arif and Lila knew that the unseen guardian would watch their every step in the days to come. They also knew that if they respected the tomb and its rules, they might uncover the greatest secrets of all. The next day, they would continue their study, moving carefully and documenting everything without disturbing the tomb. The unseen guardian had made its presence known, and the lessons of the past were clear. The tomb beneath the dunes was more than stone and gold. It was alive in its own way, testing those who entered, and guarding the history of a civilization that should never be forgotten. The morning sun rose over the desert, bright and unforgiving. Arif and Lila prepared for another day in the tomb, both aware that each step could bring new challenges. Hadi joined them, carrying water, tools, and the scrolls from previous travelers. "Today will test your understanding," he said quietly. "The tomb does not reveal its secrets easily." Arif nodded. "We are ready. We have learned to respect it, and we will move carefully." The walk across the dunes was silent, except for the soft sound of wind moving the sand. The desert seemed calm, but both Arif and Lila felt a tension in the air. It was as if the dunes themselves were alive, watching, waiting. As they reached the tomb entrance, the shadows seemed to stretch longer, reaching toward them. Inside, the air was cooler, heavier, carrying the scent of stone and dust. They moved carefully through the familiar passages, the lantern light revealing carvings they had not noticed before. The walls depicted people performing rituals, leaving offerings, and following paths that seemed to guide them safely. "This tomb is like a puzzle," Lila whispered. "Every carving, every symbol has meaning. We must understand it to survive." Arif agreed. "The tomb teaches respect, patience, and observation. We must follow its lessons if we want to see more." They reached the chamber with the guardian statue. Its eyes seemed to shine brighter than before, as if it were aware of their presence. The shadows moved in subtle ways, stretching along the walls and across the floor. Lila held her lantern close. "It feels stronger today, almost alive." Arif studied the carvings around the statue. The guardian protects something deeper. In the tomb, we must find the path it allows. The scrolls may guide us. They followed the carvings along the walls, moving toward a narrow passage hidden behind a stone. The passage was tight and dark, forcing them to crouch as they moved. The walls were covered with intricate symbols, some glowing faintly in the lantern light. Every step echoed, and the shadows seemed to move with them. Suddenly, the floor beneath Lila's foot shifted slightly, revealing a small pit covered with sand. She gasped. "There are traps here." "The tomb protects itself." Arif knelt and examined the pit. "Yes, the builders wanted only the careful and respectful to proceed. We must move slowly." They navigated the passage carefully, avoiding pits, loose stones, and other hidden dangers. The air grew colder as they moved deeper. The hum of the tomb, soft at first, grew louder, echoing in the narrow walls. The shadows of the guardian statue seemed to reach toward them, as if guiding or warning. Finally, they reached a small chamber. The walls were covered in gold leaf, still bright despite centuries of dust. In the center stood a stone pedestal holding a sealed box. Arif approached slowly, careful not to touch anything else. Lila followed closely, her eyes wide with awe. "This must be important," Arif whispered. "The tomb has guided us here." As he examined the box, the air in the chamber shifted. Shadows moved on the walls, forming shapes of warriors and guardians. The golden idol in the other chamber seemed to glow faintly, casting light into the corners. Lila shivered. "The tomb is testing us." We must be respectful and careful. Reef nodded. Yes, we observe, we document, but we do not disturb. That is our lesson. He sketched the box and the carving surrounding it, recording every detail. Lila took notes, carefully copying the symbols. The tomb seemed to respond to their care, the shadows calming slightly. The hum faded, leaving only the sound of their breathing. Suddenly, a faint whisper echoed through the chamber. It was not a voice they could understand, but it carried a warning, a feeling of presence. Lila stepped back. It knows we are here. It watches our intentions. Reef kept his focus. Yes, that is why we respect it. The tomb will reveal its secrets to those who honor it. They studied the room for several hours, noting every detail. Reef realized that the tomb was teaching them patience, showing that knowledge came slowly and could not be rushed. The guardians, though stone, carried a power that demanded humility and care. As they prepared to leave, the shadows shifted again. The chamber seemed to breathe, and the hum returned softly. Lila whispered, "We have passed the first trials, but the tomb has more to teach. We must stay careful." Reef agreed. "We have learned to observe, respect, and move carefully. That is the only way forward." They retraced their steps through the narrow passage, avoiding pits and loose stones. The tomb was quiet now, but the presence of the guardian statues seemed to follow them. Each shadow seemed to remind them that the tomb was alive and watching. Outside, the sun was lower in the sky, casting long shadows across the dunes. The desert wind carried the sound of shifting sand. Hadi watched them emerge, noting their expressions. "You have faced the tomb's first trials," he said. "Few do so successfully. Remember, the tomb continues to test those who enter." Reef and Lila nodded. "We understand now. Knowledge comes with respect. Greed and haste will be punished." That night, at the guest house, they discussed what they had learned. The tomb was more than a resting place for the dead. It was alive in its own way, testing those who entered, guarding history, and rewarding respect. "We are learning," Reef said. "But the tomb is not finished. Its lessons will continue, and we must be ready for the next trials." Lila nodded. "Yes, patience, respect, and caution are our guides. The tomb will reveal more, but only to those who follow its rules." Outside, the desert was quiet. The stars shone brightly above, and the dunes stretched endlessly. Beneath them, the tomb waited, patient and powerful. The guardian statue watched. The shadows moved, and the whispers of the past lingered in the air. Reef and Lila knew that their journey was far from over, and that the tomb held secrets that would challenge their courage, wisdom, and respect. The next day, they would return to face the deeper trials. The tomb's power was real, and it would continue to test them, shaping their understanding of history, respect, and the mysteries buried beneath the golden dunes. The sun had barely risen over the dunes when Reef and Lila prepared for their final journey into the tomb. The desert was quiet, the sand smooth from the night wind. Hadi joined them, his expression serious. "Today, you may discover the greatest secret of the tomb," he said. "But remember, respect is your only protection. The tomb watches, always." Reef nodded. "We are ready. We have learned patience, caution, and respect. We will not take what does not belong to us." Lila adjusted her lantern and stepped forward, "and we will record everything. Knowledge is more important than gold." The walk across the dunes felt longer than usual. Each shadow seemed darker, each gust of wind carrying a warning. When they reached the tomb entrance, it looked smaller under the bright morning light, yet more powerful, as if waiting for them. The carvings on the walls glimmered faintly, alive in the sun dot inside. The air was cool and heavy. The lanterns revealed the familiar passages, yet something felt different. The shadows moved with subtle awareness, twisting along the walls, following their every step. The hum of the tomb echoed softly, almost like a heartbeat dot as they entered the chamber of the guardian statue. Its eyes seemed to glow brighter than ever. The shadows of the stone figure stretched across the floor, guiding them toward a previously unseen passage. Reef felt a chill. "The guardian is showing us the path," he whispered. Lila nodded. "We must follow carefully. This is the final trial. They moved down the narrow passage, crouching to avoid low ceilings. The walls were covered in carvings of past rulers, treasures, and guardians. Some showed people offering gifts, others showed those punished for greed or disrespect. The story of the tomb became clear. It was not simply a resting place, but a test of intentions and wisdom. Finally, they arrived at a large chamber. Its walls were covered in gold leaf, depicting scenes of rulers, guardians, and offerings. In the center of the room stood a massive sarcophagus, more ornate than any they had seen before. Symbols glowed faintly on its surface, telling the story of a ruler who had sought immortality and wisdom, not wealth. Reef and Lila approached cautiously, keeping their distance. The golden idol in the other chamber shone faintly, casting light into the room. Shadows of guardians stretched toward the sarcophagus, as if protecting it. The hum of the tomb grew louder, vibrating in the walls and floor. "This must be the tomb's greatest secret," Reef whispered. The ruler, preserved for centuries, along with the knowledge of this civilization. Lila shivered. "It is alive in some way. The tomb is testing us still. Our respect and patience brought us here." As they examined the sarcophagus, faint light glowed from the carved symbols. The lid began to shift slightly, revealing a small hollow inside. Within it lay scrolls, carefully preserved. Reef stepped closer. Amazed, these are the writings of the rulers, their history, their knowledge untouched for centuries. Lila's eyes widened. "This is what we came for. Not gold, not treasure, but understanding." Reef carefully took notes, sketching the scrolls and carvings. Lila documented the symbols and the patterns on the walls. The tomb seemed to respond to their care, the shadows calming and the hum fading. The presence of the guardian felt less threatening, almost approving. Suddenly, a soft voice echoed in the chamber. It was not words they could understand, but a sound that carried meaning, a reminder that respect and caution were rewarded. Lila whispered, "The tomb approves. We have passed its final trial." Reef nodded slowly. "Yes, knowledge and respect are greater than greed or haste. The tomb has shown us its secret, and we honor it by leaving it intact." They spent hours recording every detail of the chamber. The sarcophagus, the scrolls, and the carvings. The tomb revealed its story of rulers who valued wisdom and protection, and warned against selfish desire. Reef realized that the tomb had been alive in a way they could barely understand. It was a guardian of history, testing those who dared enter. When they finally prepared to leave, the shadows moved gently, guiding them back through the narrow passage. The hum of the tomb faded, replaced by a quiet echo of their footsteps outside. The desert sun was lower, casting long shadows across the dunes. The tomb entrance seemed smaller now, less threatening but still full of power. Hadi met them at the entrance. "You have learned what few have," he said. "The tomb's secret is knowledge, patience, and respect. You have passed its tests." Reef smiled, tired but triumphant. "We have seen the tomb's truth. Its power is real, but it rewards those who honor it." Lila nodded. "And we will share its history carefully, respecting its rules. The tomb is alive in a way that few understand. We must remember that." As they walked back to the guest house, the desert was calm. The dunes were golden in the late afternoon light, endless and silent. The tomb beneath them waited patiently, guarding its secrets for the next travelers, testing those who entered, and preserving the wisdom of a civilization long forgotten. That night, Reef and Lila could sleep with a sense of accomplishment and reverence. They had faced the tomb's trials, witnessed its power, and uncovered its greatest secret. The journey had taught them courage, patience, and humility. The desert wind whispered over the dunes, carrying the faint echoes of the tomb. The shadows seemed alive, the guardian stone figure watching silently. And the ancient wisdom preserved beneath the sand remained untouched, protected, and honored. Reef and Lila knew their journey had changed them. They had seen a civilization that valued knowledge above wealth, and they had learned that respect for history and caution in the face of mystery were the greatest treasures of all. The tomb beneath the dunes had remained buried for centuries, guarding its secrets, Yet it had chosen to reveal its story to those who approached with respect and wisdom. Arif and Lila left with their notebooks full, their hearts full, and a deep understanding of the power and patience of the tomb. The desert stretched endlessly, golden and quiet. Beneath it, the tomb slept, powerful and eternal, waiting for those who might someday return, ready to teach its lessons once more. And so, the tomb's secrets remained safe, honored by those who understood, and the story of the civilization beneath the dunes lived on through the careful hands of Reef and Lila.